So we're kicking off the Frontier opening bell for the new week in the month of May. Hello, everyone. It's Monday, the 15th. Hope you all had a very great weekend. So let's get today's show started with the Nigerian markets down Friday or by 10 basis points. We've got the BRVM stronger by 28 basis points. The BRVM composite clawed its way back to 200 psychological index reading. The Egyptian market started the week around 1.28% in the negative territory, while the Nairobi stock market fell very sharply, roughly 5% on Friday, as investors saw the shares of Safaricom down about 10% 2 days after the earnings release by the telco giant, of course, on the back of its massive investment in the new territory of Safaricom Ethiopia. And of course, we've got a GSE up by 1.75% on Friday, 78,330 resources, big names like Implats, American Platinum, as well as MTN Group lifted the South African stock market to a very good close on Friday. And that summarizes the markets across the continent just for the week we're putting behind us. Let's look into the new week. We're expecting a raft of economic data this week. Well, let's look at Safaricom, which says its M-Pesa deepened its revenue share to about 41.5%. But there's a bit of a pullback in terms of the size of voice business within Safaricom's portfolio. And the CRK, which is Kenya's central bank, says it's taking about 45 billion shillings from treasury bills as the 364 paper yield hits about 11.7%. And Rwanda's central bank sees inflation easing, so it kept its benchmark interest rate unchanged at 7%, and that was the end of last week. And the World Bank says 50% of non-poor Ugandans are living on the edge of poverty and could slip back if global crisis continues. Let's check in with West Africa. Today, Nigeria's inflation data is expected to be released, as well as a few other countries, according to Bloomberg report. Nigeria's inflation for the month of April will be coming in anytime. Today, you got the numbers as soon as they get up. In the meantime, Angola has offset Nigeria as Africa's largest oil producer, with Angola putting about 1.06 million barrels per day out in the month of April. Nigeria's crude oil slowed down to about 900,000 barrels per day, according to the latest data from the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. And of course, Nigeria's oil production is also buffeted by rapid stealing, or what we call oil theft, in the country's Niger Delta. And the London Court of Arbitration has ruled in favor of Femi Otedola, Nigeria billionaire, businessman and investor, for $19 million involving the sale of his Adova PLC. Adova is listed on the Nigerian exchange into oil marketing retail business. It was sold over to a new investor. That investor took Femi Otedola to the London Court of Arbitration, contesting $20 million in what it ought to pay to Femi Otedola, but the case now being adjudged in favor of the billionaire businessman and investor. And China's and the Paris Club said they've agreed on Ghana's request for $3 billion IMF support. That is what the Nana Akufo-Addo administration sorely needs right now, and that when it could come anytime soon, as early as the end of this week, May the 19th. And Senegal gets the IMF okay and credits despite the country's debt-to-GDP ratio standing at about 76%. And the BDAC in West Africa says about 59 billion CFA francs for integration projects within the West African region has been approved as the Bank for Development within West Africa, under the umbrella of ECOWAS. Let's touch on with South Africa. Quite very naughty time for South Africa. News coming through from the finance minister is that South Africa will not be sanctioned by the United States on the allegations that South Africa allowed a Russian ship to load weapons from South Africa to Russia in support of the war in Ukraine. South Africa has been very careful not to condemn Russia for its invasion of Ukraine in February last year, and the war is still ongoing. Now, the Minister of Finance says talks had been held with Washington, and South Africa will not go under any sanctions for what the U.S. ambassador in South Africa revealed as to loading of weapons onto Russian ship back in December in South Africa. Today, the AfDB president, as well as the former president of Zambia, is in Zimbabwe to be part of the fourth structural dialogue platform for Zimbabwe's debt arrears, and debt resolution talks. Is the fourth in the series. The third series was held just a couple of months ago. We'll let you know what the details are as far as Zimbabwe is working off his debt is concerned. In the meantime, a deputy governor of the South African Reserve Bank, Kube Naidu, has warned of a rate hike by the SCRB if Rand continue to slump. The Rand slumped to about 19.7% against the dollar last week, Friday, as reactions continue to follow South Africa's deal with Russia as far as weapons concerned. Now that's been taken off the table. We'll see how the markets begin to react to the latest news from the Minister of Finance today, the first business and markets day of the new week. In the meantime, Anglo Gold Ashanti is moving its headquarters out of South Africa, Johannesburg, and moving that to London. Would also move its primary listing from the Johannesburg Stock Exchange to the New York Stock Exchange. That's not good news for South Africa, for this very iconic mining company, Anglo Gold Ashanti, one of the biggest on the GS in terms of market cap. And Zimbabwe says it's backing its new digital money with 140 kilograms of gold. The IMF has told South Africa to stay off to cryptocurrency, gold-backed, and focus more on freeing up the country's exchange rate to allow the Zim dollar recover. In the meantime, Zimbabwe's mercantile exchange has started trading in maize, and that is good news after the government liberalized the mercantile exchange market. So let's finish off with North Africa. Of course, the whole issue around Egypt hosting the Afreximbank annual meetings, or the AfDB annual meetings, I beg your pardon, is on the card. That is coming up towards the end of this month. You need to get ready for the annual meetings. Of course, Afreximbank's annual meetings will be holding in Accra, Ghana, later in the middle of June. But in the meantime, Tunisia's Telecom Egypt says is looking for additional 10% stake in the Egyptian Stock Exchange, while the ENI with the Italian energy giant Total Energies, as well as ADNOC, says they're negotiating with Libya's National Oil Corporation, the NOC, for oil and gas exploration. That's also part of the headlines, while Morocco's companies are the leader in North Africa's business landscape, and that's according to a new report by the African Business Report. In the meantime, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals is being done in partnership with Egypt, and the framework for cooperation is being ironed out between the administration of President Al-Sisi and the UN agency. And those are your business headlines and market to start your brand new business and markets week. You can watch this show again on our YouTube. Front Africa Reports is free. You can subscribe. And of course, you can go online and watch shows, all other shows, as well as read up. You can follow us on our social media handles as well. We'll be looking forward to your following us, as well as your remarks and comments, as well as questions and queries on our shows. Bye for now. Have a great day. See you again tomorrow.